Hey, folks, thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of YOML. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. Today, we're doing 231 reflection, and we are staying on topic with Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yeah, excited for this one.
Another familiar.
Another familiar. Yeah. We're in that stretch of a lot of my top 5 favorites, reflections, slowly mixing in any new book that I was finishing during this time of YOML. But this particular reflection is meaningful work doesn't care about the planning fallacy. Do you remember what the planning fallacy is? And
Yes, always. Everybody does. I mean,
right.
I don't care if you're Microsoft or Apple.
Right. Everybody does.
You always say, hey, this project only take like 6 months, and then it's 2 years. Yeah. And
For
Apple
sure.
did that. I mean, the first Apple that released, they were like, I think 6 months behind.
Yeah. I mean, well, we're just talking about your platform. When you and Eric first started building, your salon software, how long did you think it was going to take to get the initial product done?
6 months, but it took longer because it just things just comes out of the woodwork when you start to
Right.
interact with it, right? You peel the layer. In the beginning, you're taking a picture of an onion, right? It's just missing an onion. There's
Right.
nothing to it. And then you peel the layers, and there's more layers and more layers. Like,
Right.
and that we don't see everything, right?
We barely see anything.
But hidden is like the piece of the iceberg, right? But underneath it is huge. But I mean, that's the thing is when you look at far and say, hey, if I were asking for you to move that rock, how long would it take and how much it costs, right? And say, well, that piece of rock, I could probably, chop it up in 3 pieces, and I'm gonna use some tugboat and carry it out. Like the moment you start to move it, say, wait a minute, and there's more stuff underneath it, and you keep digging, and there's more stuff underneath it, and it's bigger than we thought. Like it's 2 to 3 times bigger, minimum.
Right. I remember in the book, what was it? It was either Blank or Talking to Strangers. I can't remember. I think it was Talking to Strangers. They were talking about the California railroad system, the high-speed railroad that they were building from LA to San Francisco that they broke ground on like in 2010. And they had originally projected to be done by 2021 or something like that. And they literally had only built like 50 miles of the rail line by the original projected date. And they were like, multiples over cost already for that particular project, and they're still like have no end in sight, for trying to build this, and they haven't even solved their biggest problem, which is they got to get through some mountain range, south of San Francisco and north of LA. So they said, you know what, screw it, we're just going to build the track in between, where nobody is anyway right now, and then we'll figure out those other problems at the back. Oh no, I remember what I heard that in. It was the book Quit by Annie Duke. She was talking about monkeys and pedestals, or if you're trying to teach a monkey to juggle torches while doing backflips in a park on a pedestal, a lot of people look at the problem and they go, well, let's build the pedestal first and then we'll figure out the whole monkey situation. And she's like, no, like, we've been building pedestals for thousands of years. We know how to build a pedestal. We know approximately how long it'll take. Well, what we don't know is how to train a monkey to do backflips while, with torches in his hand while, on a park and doing it on a pedestal. Like, figure out if you can do that first, and then and then focus on the rest of it, right?
Exactly.
That was where that came from. That's something that Google X uses as their philosophy of solve the monkey problem first, right, and then do the pedestal stuff.
Right, but either way, I mean, the reality is that you can only predict things that you have seen before, and that will reduce the length.
Barely.
So if you,
I mean,
if you ask me to build you a mobile app, by my estimations, I'm going to be about a month or 2 months, basically short of it, right? I mean, because I have everything in control. I know what I did. I know how to redo most of these things, and I'll be off by 1 to 2 months. So let's say there's one app, it takes a year, I'll be off by 1 to 2 months.
Yeah.
But if you take the same app and you add other people in it, the outcome is completely unpredictable. So you can't say, well, since you do 1 and 2 months, and how much this guy's gonna have? Let's say he does it. Let's say the design part of it, it's gonna be 3 months, right? Once we add another variable to it, the outcome becomes exponentially, drastically deviates from the original. Even though I already have my own standard deviations, and he has his own, and we should be able to multiply that and get it. But in reality, it doesn't work like that. That means 2 person work on it. Let's say you added another variable that completely blow your estimate out the water completely. There's no way you can predict it. It's just not possible.
It's not at all. I mean, I think the example that Daniel Kahneman uses in this book is, I believe he was pulled into a task force at his university to design a new curriculum, and they put the foremost minds and experts that needed to come together for this. So they had a bunch of different planning meetings, and they were like, how long do you guys think this is going to take? And I think they projected originally like 2 years for them to redo this new curriculum. And I think it ended up being 8 years later was when they finally finished, and like only like two people that were still around of the original group of like, the people that started the project were even still in the project. I mean, this happens all the time, right? So that's kind of what it's a good way
That's
to kind
normal.
of this. It's very normal. Yeah, that's what's called the planning fallacy, right? So it's a phenomenon in which predictions about how much time will be needed to complete a future task display an optimal bias and underestimate the time needed to complete the task, right? So I wanted to. This is where the whole meaningful work doesn't care about the planning fallacy comes into play. So it made me think. I know you know the story a little bit, but I'll recap it here. So did you know how long I thought it was going to take to write I Can't Imagine when I first sat down to write it? For everybody that doesn't know, that was the first book that I wrote about my daughter's life.
No, I could guess. I have no idea, but I could guess.
How long do
I
you
would say
think
3 months.
You think I thought it was going to take 3 months to write a book?
Yeah.
Wrong. Yeah, I thought it was going to take 1 month. 1 month.
Well, I
You know,
I think I'm pretty close.
yeah, right. So let me walk you through the logic.
And
right?
knowing what I know, I think I'm pretty close. Basically, when I say 3 months, I'm giving you some cushion.
Right. Well, so this was an estimate based off of very logical system 2 reasoning. And I'll walk you through it. All right, you ready? So reason number 1, time. I was at this time during that 1 month, I was not working because I was still on bereavement leave and kind of processing everything that had gone on with Amelia's life. And this is roughly about 3.5 months is when after she'd passed away is when I started this book. So it was going into July of 2020. So I had time. I had, in theory, all day long to write if I wanted to, right? I was just at home trying to process life, So I had motivation, the pain of my daughter and a desire to share her story with the world. Like I was incredibly motivated to get this book written and to tell her story. I knew I wasn't going to stop. That was 100%. This wasn't just, I want to write this book. I was like, no, I have to tell this story and I'm going to tell this story. I had all of my journals that I had completed. I had obviously lived the experience myself, right? So this wasn't like I needed to go do a bunch of research. I had documented my research, my life that I could refer back to if I had any like questions about exactly how things were playing out or if I needed to refer back to whatever. And I lived it, right? Like this was my life that I was writing about. This wasn't something that I had to invent or some fiction novel or something like that, where I had an outline. I literally had already worked out the outline. The last couple of weeks I was finishing up her journal to her, and as we were getting closer and closer to her original due date. So I knew all the stories that I wanted to share. I had a plan, of what I wanted or how I wanted to structure the book. I had a plan. I had a very explicit plan. I'd never written a book before, but I had read a book and done some research around Stephen King and Maya Angelou and how they planned out their book writing process. And they said they do 5 pages a day. They proofread it before shutting down, and then they start up the next day. And I was like, I can do that. I can do 5 pages a day. That's fine. So I thought to myself, like, look, I have 30 days, before I want to go back to work. And I have the whole month of July and into August to finish this book. So I was like, thought I was only going to write about 100 to 150 pages and do the math, man. 30 days, 150 pages, 100 pages, 5 pages a day. Like, I mean,
Yep.
Easy peasy. Month.
Very systematic. Very
Right,
systematic.
I mean, like this,
imagine it's somebody who does it.
But here the lesson goes on, right? So I thought 30 days, ready to go. I got to work and it all sounds pretty logical, right? So in July of 2020, I sat down and I began writing her book. I was fully expecting to be done by August 2020. I was so confident that I even, I called my boss and I said, hey, I think I'm ready to come back to work. I set my start date to be my birthday, which is August 3rd. I was like, coming back August 3rd. And I was like, I'm heads down, fully focused on this project until then. And I started, it's almost like comical now that I look back and think about it. So I was like, you know what, for like 2 days, I'll proofread all the journals really fast because I want to make sure that I go back through it, refresh my memory about some stuff, further refine my outline and do some proofreading of those journals. That was 120 days of journaling that I had been writing to my daughter. Well, that took me 30 days. Literally, it took me like 25 of the 30 days was just proofreading and editing and going back through my journals. So by this point in time, August rolls around and I'd already committed to come back to work. And I literally wrote the first like 5 pages, I think, of the book. And by the time that I went back to work, couldn't have been further from off base of where I wanted to go. So I said, screw it. I'm going to do this my way. So I went back to work and I said, I'm going to sit down and write for 1 hour every morning before work. Fast forward about 8 months later is when I finished my first draft of the book, and that was in March of 2021, right before Amelia's first birthday. So I thought it was going to be a month. It took me 8 months to get the first draft done. And to be fair, like, I'm actually glad that it did, because, you know, Amelia and I were living our purpose every single day. The story wasn't done yet. If I would have written it in a month, a lot of the stuff in the second half of the book about the whole fix your basement stories, all the stuff that happened with Luca, all the stuff that I saw Amelia and how she was impacting my life more and more every single day, and the kind of the magical, you know, compound effect of us living our life together, you know, was taking shape as I was writing the story a lot of times, you know, and living life again and trying to figure this stuff out. I'm glad it took longer. And besides that, I even though it took me a long time, like, I loved every minute of it. Like, I mean, I got to spend time with my daughter, and yeah, I'll never forget crying my eyes out, you know, every single morning, like, you know, writing that thing and trying to get her story out there in the world. And I mean, that's memories that I'll never forget, you know. So I get the first draft done right before her birthday, and I was like, okay, all right, we're good. It's like I can finally share. I want to share her story with the world. I was so excited. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to share her story with everybody and get it out there. And I remember I've never written a book before. I was like, I got to proofread it, I guess, if I'm going to actually publish this thing. So I found somebody to proofread it, and I was like, okay, probably a couple weeks, you know, go back through this. It was 400 pages long. I'll pay somebody, they can proofread it, send me a copy back, and we'll be done with this in a couple weeks. Wrong. That was 4 months later. 4 months later of me proofreading it with the editor proofreading it together every single day. Proofreading was the worst. I've never done anything more painful in my life from a work perspective than having to edit your own work and edit it again, and then edit it again, and then edit it again. I think we did like five different drafts of the book, reading it completely from front to back, editing it as you go. Your brain's just like wiped. You try to do like 10 pages a day, and it's just exhausting, you know, and then send it to the editor to have her do her pass on it. I mean, like, Jesus Christ. So fast forward all in, you know, it was like 14 months later before I finally had a finished copy to send to the publisher to actually turn it into an actual book. And I thought I was going to get this shit done in a month. So, but here's the thing. This is why the reflection is the meaningful work doesn't really care about the planning fallacy. Like, if this was a project that I didn't give any shit about, I would have been devastated. I would have been like, Jesus Christ, this is just going on and on and on. What am I doing? But because this was such a meaningful work experience for me, it was something that I didn't even want to stop, to be honest with you. And I miss writing that book, and I miss the feeling of that. And I'm going to miss this journey, you know, once it's over. Like the Year of Magical Learning, when you were here the day that this idea was formed. We were having one of our new idea clubbing sessions, and I brought this thing up, and you said, you know, we both agreed, like, just try it for months, see what happens. I didn't know how long it was going to take. This has been 16 months ago now, and this journey has taken almost 4 years of my life. Once this is done, then I got to go proofread it, and then I got to figure out publishing, illustration, artwork, whatever else comes next. But I'm going to miss every minute of this, and the day that you and I stop doing this podcast about this, it's going to feel like
something's missing.
Something's missing. Yeah, that's what I was getting at with this whole entire thing. Is I don't give a fuck about the planning fallacy. You know why? Because I want it to go longer. I want it to be like, when you're immersed in meaningful work and doing the stuff that you want to do, the planning fallacy is irrelevant. As long as I'm doing stuff that I love to do with my daughter every single day and with other people that I love to do, and I'm able to bring my values to life in this world, I don't want that to ever end. I don't care if that's, you know, if I thought it was going to be 2 months and it took me 5 years. Like, I'm great. Like, if anything, I'm scared about it when it will end. And then I got to go, you know, recreate another one. I'm sure Amelia and I will find the next, you know, thing that we want to go take. But right now, it's an unknown. I mean, I know how we'll get there. But either way, I think you get my point, I guess, at this point in time. I'd love to get your thoughts.
I think I've been with you long enough that even with the title by itself, I have no disagreement. Because, you know, in a way, when you plan something, you are trying to predict a future outcome.
Yep.
And that future outcome is completely random in terms of what you can control. You probably close to your mark if the things or the ingredients is involved in this project, right? If you have control over it and you have experienced it, and you may be able to accurately close to predicting it. The rest of them, if any unknown elements is in that, it basically say, hey, it's unknown, it's question mark, it doesn't matter, right? And so to me, that's the measure of an outcome to a existing estimations. And a lot of times that's not mathematically, that's not possible. Because the thing is, when you say, well, I'm going to do all these things to the formula, but inside the formula, there's a number of question marks. How does the outcome will have some concrete answer without a question mark? It's not possible unless you solve for each element of it by itself first. In order for you to get enough experience, enough traction to understand how something would, right? You know how to build a pedestal, right? So you are done that, and you say, well, I've done this 1,000 times. I know how long this takes. So that's pretty much doesn't deviate too much.
Right.
But on the other hand, as far as the monkey, well, the type of monkey, how to communicate with the monkey.
How do you even get a monkey here?
How to get a monkey that's not afraid of you. I mean, there's so many variables. So it basically is unknown. So failing fallacy is to me isn't. I think planning is a human-made construct that because they need to have some control, they try to take the elements in a wicked environment and try to pretend it's a kind environment that it doesn't change. And that's the only way for us to try to understand the world around us. And I think that causes because like I said, everything is pros and cons. Sometimes it gives us some like a probability predictions of something. But at the same time, if you rely on too much, then it becomes a bad thing. Just like, anything you have is both pros and cons. So having the fallacy is I think is a reality that you're going to have to accept. Right?
Well, not just accept it. If it's meaningful work, I'm saying embrace it. Like enjoy it. Enjoy the.
No, it's completely different because the thing is, I don't think it's this. For me, I have two thoughts on this. Right? The planning fallacy is planning fallacy. It has nothing to do with meaningful work. Right? Because meaningful work, we don't care. We don't care about the outcome because like I am getting to play tennis. That's the enjoyment already.
That's the point.
I already get the time to play. So it's not like this is the outcome I'm trying to achieve. The outcome I'm trying to achieve is already happening. It happens right now. It's a positive, immediate feedback. That's what meaningful work does. As for the planning fallacy, the thing you do are basically things you don't care about or things you hate. That's not meaningful but the thing is you want an outcome that to you has value. And for you is I'm paying, right? I'm paying for this, eating frogs or my effort, my time and my money or whatever to hopefully get this outcome that's come back to me. So most of the time that formula is not logical. And so to me, I see in this reflection two lessons. The first lesson is the planning fallacy is not something you should rely on and you just need to accept the unknowns are unknown, that something you can't control. Don't use it. So that's the first lesson, right? Because what can you do with it? If you do that, right? Every time they go and they do something, hey, I have this idea and I have this plan. Just like, hey, I have this idea to write a book like you. And then I have all these informations and I'm planning out to have my first launch in a month, my first product MVP in a month, right? It doesn't work that way. If you say, hey, this is how much I have money in the bank for me to sustain my bills until that one, you're completely going to be broke like 8 times over. Right? Before you would have anything that may resemble some sort of success. And if you do that, you're going to really hate yourself. Right? Because the thing is, you're eating frogs every day for 8 times the expectations. And what you get in return? Maybe nothing.
And when
but the thing is, so the second lesson is more important. It's like, first of all, if you have no idea what we're talking about meaningful work, I urge you to say, well, if you're an entrepreneur on this journey, when you are looking at the planning like other people do, just expect to be disappointed
30% more and 30%
because that doesn't hurt as much and doesn't remove you from the entrepreneurial game. That's the thing is, in the game,
I'm actually recommending don't plan. Just start doing it. If you really like it, it doesn't matter. The planning fallacy is irrelevant because let's just keep rocking and rolling because I really love this. This is meaningful for me. But if it's not meaningful and you're doing every single day, then it's eating the frog. Then it's like you're not going to finish no matter what. Even if you had the best coordinated attack of a plan, you're not going to finish it. There might be people out there that can sheer willpower their way to pushing a boulder up a hill across the finish line, no matter how long it takes them. But like,
I mean, why do you think people say, you need to have a partner in the entrepreneurial game? Just because you by yourself don't have enough willpower. You need the other person's willpower in the time when your willpower is depleted. They are the ones carrying you. Basically, you just alternate to use your willpower to just slug through this thing. And the thing is, that's what you're doing. And the planning fallacy is essentially the reality of this world. And if you think you can make that, you can buck that trend, you have another battle coming, right? You have multiple battlefront you're fighting, and you're also fighting this one. For me, it's like my recommendation is, my encouragement to you is, don't plan. Just do whatever you need to do. Just get it done.
Start today.
Just working on it. So, like I said, you and I, when we start this journey, we want to plan out what to do, how to do, blah blah, right? But eventually we learn that, hey,
we need to invite guests, like
this and that, postmortem, do pre-mortem, or do like, mom tasks. Now a bunch of BS that that we think was like the de facto tools and de facto process that we need to go through. But to me, it's going through this journey. I say this is essentially leading you to a place where you're gonna hate yourself by wasting time doing things that you don't like. But at the end of the day, say, okay, right now, for whatever reason, I'm compelled to say, hey, I need to build something great and contribute to society. But by the time you're like 80, 90 years old, 100 years old, you don't fucking care. Say, look, the only thing I care about is, did I have a good relationship with my friends, my family, my daughters, my son, my grandson, my grandkids, things that I wish I had tried. To me, this is your regret. You regret to, hey, I regret I only had like 199 different car designs instead of 200 car designs, or whatever, if you're the car designer, or whatever. Like, let's say, hey, I have 8 gold medals instead of 10, or I'm regretting I didn't get 2 more, right? I guarantee you, I have never seen any people passing on from this earth have this kind of a regret at the end.
Right.
So for me, is you gotta do. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to do something, that's great, but don't use these tools. These tools is basically you to a point where you're going to hate yourself. So for the first lesson is, don't plan. Just find the things that gives you an immediate value. Don't wait for the value. Eat that damn marshmallow.
Right. And see how many days you can eat it in a row, and then
if it's fitting, then it's going to be okay. If it's not, then you're going to hate it on marshmallow. And then this isn't really the kind of activities or value that I should be going long term, like going forever. But if you find something like, hey, I love to play tennis, right? To me, it's like, okay, if I play tennis, if someday I become pro, it's great, and I make money back, it's great. But right now, I don't want to care. I just want to play. I'm willing to pay money to belong to a club, to pay for the court fees, to pay for the lessons, to pay for the machine that shoots the balls out for me to practice or whatever.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes I think about tennis in the middle of conversations with people, or I'm taking a shower and I'm like, oh man, this is, maybe I should turn my hand a little, like, what would happen if I did this? Or like visualizing a shot that I'm trying to hit or something. It's weird. And I don't know if you're like that about coding or something like that, but sometimes
that's what moves you, right?
See that awake, right.
Right. It say, well, the thing is, when I'm in the zone, right, that means that I am at the tail of a problem, and I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to conquer this problem, whatever that problem is, right?
You're in flow.
And so that, to me, gives you the most joyful experience in terms of what it is that you're here for. You do that, right? And that is in itself an immediate feedback, immediate reward for the value that you're chasing for. And so when you have that, it doesn't matter how many of these you do, because every single time you do, you get let's say, for example, I work an hour, I get an hour paycheck. I don't wait for the month to get it. At the end of the month, people say, hey, I don't have money, so we sorry, the bank, we basically bankrupt. So other work you've done, you've taken that risk. Right? In the real world, the probability for you to get your estimate to be exactly like the outcome is like close to zero.
Right. Yeah.
Almost zero. Okay. So it's not like a paycheck that people promise you that's 90% they're going to be there. So the thing is, you look at equations in the real world where you have this project and you go on to this planning. All your planning dictates what you need to do, and the outcome determine whether you are going to be able to survive or you're going to be out of the game. Any misses is essentially death to that entrepreneurial life.
Well, but
So that means that you have 0.0000% chance of staying alive as an entrepreneurial person.
I agree, but I think you're not missing the most important point here, but I think we are missing the kind of theme that I was trying to go for with this is I like the planning fallacy when it's something that I like to do because it's an extended. I don't want this project to stop. Like, I mean, I don't want, if I'm an entrepreneur and I love what I'm doing, I don't want it. If I'm going to the fucking moon and I'm Neil Armstrong and I get back, I don't want it to stop because I was in it, man. You know,
Because
I was fully absorbed.
that's the
like,
difference between me and you, though, Chris. I don't have any kind of awareness of the planning fallacy. For me, as far as I'm concerned, okay,
right.
this YOML continues until we.
Oh, I agree.
So it's not,
Yeah.
to me, I am not even fear that one of these days that YOML will end.
Oh, I know that.
So the
I'm not
thing is,
afraid.
for me,
I'm not
to me,
afraid of that
it's too,
anymore. Right.
the planning fallacy doesn't even enter my mind. So whether
That's
it's good or
what I'm
not,
saying.
it's
Right.
irrelevant to me.
That's exactly what my point
Because
is.
right now
Yeah.
I'm in this bliss where I get to do this every day and I get to talk to somebody. Because like I say, for me, a perfect day is like 80% myself and 20% talking to somebody. And
Right.
talking to you on the podcast is essentially the perfect mix for me. You and I have this holidays, whatever, and we would skip a few days just because of the holiday. You say, well, something's missing in my day, like something
Right.
isn't right. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is until I get back to normal on the weekdays, when we get to do this again, it becomes normal. I become me again. I become myself again. I become more alive in a way. The other one, I was kind of in some kind of a haze, saying something's missing.
Right.
I'm walking with out of my head or something like that. So that's how I feel. And because I don't consider the planning fallacy is I don't even think about, hey, because of the planning, you actually have to end something, and at the end, we only have this many to go and whatever. So that
Right.
never enters my mind because to me is I could think about it,
Right.
and I could have some concern, and that would essentially takes away some of the joy that I'm experiencing right now. So I don't think about it. For me, it's like this thing is non-existent. We basically conjure up this concept of planning
Right.
and thinking we have any control over that. And so to me, I say, well, this thing is hogwash. Let's get rid of it. I don't want to use it. I don't want to think about it. I'm going to follow this lioness footprint until it stops.
That's exactly my point. And that actually goes back to the lesson of the Lion Tracker's Guide to Life of, I don't know where I'm going, but I know how I'll get there. I know that this journey doesn't end after this, but like I know how
Everything
we'll
has
get
a
there.
beginning,
Right.
and everything has an end. And to me, that's something that we don't really have much control over. Okay.
No
And
idea.
and if you think that you and I get together because you and I have this control, we are lying to ourselves because I have no control over what I like. For example, like let's say because by nature you have to be who you're supposed to be. You cannot be someone else. So for example, I say, well, if you're a man, right, Chris, do you want a wife that is not a woman? By nature, you want a woman. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, well, I don't know how to answer that question because I guess I can't put myself in other people's shoes. But for me,
No,
yeah,
I'm asking
yeah.
you, your
Right.
nature,
Yeah, for
your
me,
nature as a man,
as
a man, right? No, I'm talking about by nature as a man,
right?
Right? Nature, by nature as a man. I'm just
but I
saying
don't know
is
the
you
answer to that,
have a certain affinity for something, whether it's physical, meaning you like to run, for example,
Right.
or you're a man, you like the counterpart of a man. If you're a woman, you like the counterpart of a woman. That's all I'm saying because that's by nature. You by your nature,
no,
you needed a woman. You were saying?
Right.
By nature, as a man, I needed a woman. I'm not going to say, well, by nature, my better half is another person's or another animal or whatever. I'm just saying is by nature. I don't need to answer me. You're a man, and you're not going to marry a monkey for a male chimp or even another man, right? Because you, by your nature, you don't want to.
If you watch some TikTok videos, you might see people in their dog ownership. They some of them look like they're married to their dogs. It's weird.
What I'm saying is by nature, right? But by nature is this is the kind of person you're supposed to be. Like I say, a lion can say, well, today I'm not a lion. I want to be this hyena, right? You can't. There are cases where something goes wrong with lion, and the lion becomes this like Scar in the Lion King, right? You know
Right.
what I mean? Because the thing is, by your nature, if nothing goes wrong with you, right?
I think Scar actually is a lion nature. I think they actually kill their nephews and stuff like that. Like for like that's like a thing I think that lions do for like dominance over other lions and to make sure that they male lion. Anyway, not I know you were
Well,
joking about Scar, but I actually think that that's something.
we have nature, right? Nature is who
Right.
we're supposed to be, and you cannot be that. And that's what I'm saying. Go back to what I'm saying, before this. It's like you and I got together because by random chance, what I like, my preferences for the things we talk about, and your preferences and the thing you like to talk about coincide.
Right.
That's why
Yeah.
this happens.
Mhm.
It's not because
For sure.
I chose it. It's not because you chose it. You
Right.
already had a preference for a certain topic you want to discuss,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
That
Yeah.
is not something you choose. So I'm
I
saying
mean,
I have no choice over this beginning nor the end, because how do you say, well, later on, let's say your core values changed, which is fine because core values are always change because you change as a person. And
sure.
so when you change, right, it's no longer fitting. And when you are no longer fitting, you shouldn't force yourself to continue doing this YOML podcast just because
Right.
so in a way, there's always a beginning and there's always an end. And that is just by nature. This is the events, right? The events, it flows through time.
Right.
You have the meeting events, you have the ending events. And that is going to happen, right? But the thing is, it's going to happen without our control. So why are we focusing on that which we can't control? Why don't we focus on a thing that we can control, which is you can get to do this and you
Just do
enjoy
the
this for the
stuff. Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
If
Right.
you're asking me about, if it ends, I say, okay, if it ends, okay.
Well,
If it
figure it out
doesn't
what's
end,
next.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
I
So I don't, how much more do we have to go to get to 65? I will say I have no idea because I honestly I don't know because
right.
I never done any thinking of how much more it needs or how far have we gone. I don't even do that because it's not
That's
relevant to
that's
me.
that's the best way to run a marathon is not even know where you're at and just look around and go, oh shit, I just ran 26 miles. Because if you think about
And
it,
that's the journey that I like.
with an ultra marathon, right? Running a marathon's hard. But when you're running an ultra marathon, your mindset is completely changed where you're like, well, I got to run 50 miles. So you pass the marathon mile mark and you're like, well, I just
I
ran a
mean, the thing
marathon.
is,
I mean,
you
you don't
get
even think about it.
depressed. You get
Right.
depressed because if you
No,
want,
you don't. If you're doing it right, like I'm
no,
saying,
no,
I'm
no,
saying
no, you get
nowadays,
depressed either way. Let's say you run a marathon, you see the first mile, say, shit, I have 49 to go. It's so long. You have anxiety. I'm eating this marshmallow. There's only 50 of them. Shit, I have only 3 left. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm
you're
I'm gonna run
it's
out.
very
So either way,
it's
you're not
very
in the marshmallow.
it's very oil
You're
driven
wasting
to
that last 3 or whatever the first whatever the
yeah.
first anxiety comes in. I thought, okay, let's say that's 50 and get to 25 and you start saying, hey, only 25 left, right? So you worry about the anxiety of these things are going to be gone quicker than you want to. You basically take on the anxiety and you forgo the enjoyment of the actual eating of the marshmallow. You don't remember eating the last 25. It's
Right.
torture for you. You're suffering. You create your own suffering.
Right.
To
I
me,
mean,
it's like when I go on a journey, I don't care how far have I gone, or how
right.
far I have to go.
That's the right way
I
to do it.
don't care. And
Yeah.
like through this journey, you can say whatever you want. I did not take any heed in terms of like when you say, like, remember you say, hey, you're on this like 22.3 mile marker mile. I say, okay, great. I have no idea what it is, which is great. It doesn't affect me.
Well,
For me,
we're technically on 20. I wrote this yesterday. Oh, we're on 25.6, 26.2. So we're getting there. You know,
I mean, this is where time unfolds for you, okay?
right.
Because the thing is, you don't realize the time you spend on something.
Yeah.
To me, that's the utmost fullest enjoyment of the time. The utility of the time. If you can focus on that without having to worry about whatever is going to happen in the future, because when you think about whatever will happen in the future, you actually distract part of your mind onto that thing, and that creates this anxiety and distress for you. At the
Right.
same time, you basically block and override the experience that you had. So a lot of people don't enjoy the last. I mean, most people have this ability. Like let's say they have 50 marshmallows to eat. Well, the first one to pick, well, they may enjoy it. I don't know if they do, because if your mind is always thinking about things that is external to what you can control, I don't think you can enjoy any of the marshmallow among the 50, because at certain point you have some kind of thinking, some kind of worry, some kind of fear or whatever. And it doesn't matter. You basically say, well, I've ate all the marshmallow, but the only memory I have is of the fear, the things I can do with the marshmallow, all the things I'm projecting, all the things I conjure up, versus the actual experience of the reality itself.
Right.
So, like I say, if I have a friend today, then this is my blessing for today. If I get to talk to you today, it's my blessing for today. I take that because it's an immediate reward for me. If tomorrow you can't do it, it's a shame, but it's not something that I'm going to be stressful over. I can't, because I know that things will change, things will end. That's just the way it is, and I can't control that. I can't say, well, my particular core values and preference will stay the same, and yours should also be the same. And even if I do stay the same and you have changed, what kind of friend would I be if I forces you to like what I like when I know you don't like it?
I mean, yeah, totally agree. If you enjoy stuff, you don't want it to end. It's the bottom line. Who gives a shit how long it's going to take? Just do it and enjoy it and take it for the blessing that it is, and keep marching one more step each day, and until you can't, and then figure out what the next step.
Figure out what kind of work, what kind of activity matters to you, and just do that.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like that's a good final note to stop on. What do you think?
Yeah, we're over time.
Awesome. That was a question we can leave with everybody. Is how do you combat the planning fallacy in your life
and apply the meaningful work?
Do shit that you care about and don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we will see you all tomorrow, and thanks for joining, and have a great night.
Okay. See you.